I'm trying to keep this in the time allowed because of the... You don't want to miss the train, although there's lots of trains, and you don't want to miss Santa Claus. So, did you see the movie? I actually didn't have the guts to turn on the volume because I was at the session when they sent it to me that it's built now, so you can publish it if you wish. I just didn't want to put the volume up, so I have no idea if there's even sound or music. But okay, so the last session for today is about a session. This is a really, really weird thing. First of all, this is honestly the first time ever that I'm at a conference where my own session is the least stressing one that I have. This feels like a relief being up here. So I'm going to talk about the session I had. I basically have slides from the session that I did in TechEd US, TechEd Europe, and TechEd Australia, but I'm doing a behind-the-scenes version of it. So we're doing it the MCT way, meaning that I hope you can get tips and tricks on how to make better presentations. First of all, during presentations you should have a monitor to look at. But we don't. Yeah, I agree. To set the ground, first of all, I have two kinds of sessions. I have lots of sessions that I do for daily operations, which are meant for training and get money, food on the table, etc. And then I have other sessions which are just purposely built to achieve high scores. I've heard different numbers, but I'd say you can do maximum 1 or 2 top-notch sessions per year. There's people who, like Andy Malone, did 7 sessions last time in TechEd, and he did really well with all the 7, but still he said that that's way too much, and I agree. If you want to have really, really good sessions, then you can't have them too many. I hate myself sometimes for saying this, and I'm honestly a bit ashamed when I do this. I've done this once in MCT Summit North America about a month ago, and what I mean by saying ashamed is like if I would be teaching someone to achieve MCSE or MCSA, I would actually want them to learn something. I would not have them read the brain dumps and get the best scores. So this in a bit feels like the same thing. It's kind of manipulating people to get the best of the best scores. Meaning that if I would like to do this in a way to teach people as much as possible, I would never do it like this. It's purposely built as a show, not as a not so much as a teaching opportunity. We were in MVP Summit last week, and Michael Niehaus said that you can go and see Mark Minassi's session, or there was a techie guy from Microsoft, and he said that you can choose, you can be entertained, or you can be educated. And I don't want these to be only entertainment. I want them to actually also learn something, but still it's a lot more with the entertainment. There's a lot more entertainment in it, I hope. Just as some kind of a justification for the title, I will put these up here. I don't like to brag, so, but still, it was my rookie year in TechEd. I've never been to TechEd before. I've been trying to get there for 6 or 7 years, but I've never managed to get in. Mark Minassi, the same guy, told me that your session titles just suck, that you have really good content, but you just have to have more Hollywood-style names for your sessions to get in. And he said that you have to have black belt, ninja, kung fu, or hacking in the name. And actually, that's a true story. I put black belt troubleshooting, I got it in instantly. We were sitting in the sauna yesterday. Where's our real black belt? No, he's not here. No. It was Was the Polish guy? We were actually sitting in the sauna. I was laughing about it. I'm going to talk about black belt troubleshooting today, and the guy was next to me throwing water at the stove and telling about his black belt in judo. We are not going to fight. So there were two TechEds that I got in. I got into TechEd US and Europe straight, and TechEd US I was number 19, and speaker rating something like number 26. About 400 speakers and 550 sessions or something. And TechEd Europe was a lot better, although I had a lot of Finnish people in the crowd, so I had some help probably. But I was the best external speaker, so I was number 3, and I lost to Mark Rusinovic twice. So he was number 1 and number 2. And TechEd Australia I won basically every category that they had, but it was a lot smaller event. They only had 2,500 attendees, as TechEd US and TechEd Europe are a lot bigger. And I went there intentionally because I knew that Mark Rusinovic hates the long flights and he didn't want to go there. So there's a reason for everything. Here comes the honest part that I hate. If you think about it, I already told you that I forgot the introduction, and now I have the chance to introduce myself. So again, you can see my Twitter there, and you've probably seen it anyway during this week. Please do follow me. I'm actually an MVP in Windows OS at the group called Windows Expert IT Pro. So I do Windows OS training, and I have been doing it for the past 15 years. There's a few colleagues of mine that have been working with me since then, so I was basically 21 when I started and been doing the same thing since then. Started as a scuba diving instructor, but decided that I didn't get to speak as much as I wanted. Underwater it's very hard, so I needed to get back on the surface. So you always tell stories. That's why I always have this one. That's the first XP deep dive that we did. That's done about 6 or 8 meters under the Atlantic Ocean. So we actually did an XP deep dive. I photoshopped the old company name away from there a bit, so people wouldn't see that so well. But Sovelto is thanking because it's one of our competitors. But so I did want to combine these somehow. We had a really good time, but the IBMs at that time just didn't make it. They weren't good enough. I actually had a guy who owns the scuba diving center, and he's been working for IBM for 20 years. And he asked me that we were standing next to the Atlantic Ocean, and I had about 8 IBMs. And I was going to throw the laptops into the ocean. So the guy who had been working 20 years for IBM, he came next to me. How much would I have to pay you if I could throw those in the water? Sure, go ahead. Then he was throwing out IBM laptops to the ocean. So always tell stories, as we've heard before, and even as Seth and many of you told, to get people learning, telling stories is the best part, always, to keep them awake. Use the opportunity. I always, as it's not allowed to do any marketing in technical sessions in TechEd, you can talk about your projects and you can have a few links on the slides. So I always do my marketing as politely and quietly as I can, but I do use the opportunity. That's the absolutely best marketing that I can do. So I always use it. How I got in is basically thanks to MCT Summit. That's why I'm always yelling at people and asking them and doing whatever to get the recorded sessions and the evals, because that was the one thing that made the difference for me to get in. It was actually a 7 ways to crack Windows 7 session in Poland last year, which was recorded only by a fellow MCT with a Sony Handycam. But still, that's the one that actually was needed to get me in. And I had really, really difficult times of getting outside of Finland. Because if I tell anyone that I've written about 250 blog articles and sent them to Microsoft, they're written in Finnish, so you can figure out it's not that easy to prove that I'm a real operating system guru. So I had a really tough time. I went from MCT Summit to a smaller thingy called the STEP, Springboard Technical Expert Panel, which is a group of MVPs. And I did a session in Redmond, which was, I had no idea, but was selected as the best session of 2012 globally. So that was the session I did in MCT Summit. They got me to do it in Redmond because I had done it in MCT Summit, and because I did it in Redmond, they got me into TechEd. So that's basically the path of getting in. Yeah, you did. Thank you. You absolutely did. I was horrified when I got my acceptance to TechEd and saw my time slot. Last session of the whole conference in both US and Europe. I asked Michael Niehaus, like, did I get the last session because you think the people will stay because I'm so good that they want to stay until the end, or just because I'm a rookie? He just said no comments, but it's not the first one. 50-50. Thank you. So be prepared for it. You will have to do the test drive in a really bad slot. So, and I actually thought that I will only have the one chance, and I did a lot of work to get the presentation as good as it. Well, obviously it got to be as good as I thought, and especially as I hoped. I had a secret. I told my wife I have a secret wish of getting into top 20 in any of the TechEds. That was the thing that I was aiming for. If I just could get into top 20, that would be the best thing that ever happened to me. And I was number 19 in US, so I was really happy about that one. And actually, like, had already achieved what I was aiming for. My funding comes from two companies, basically. So Microsoft paid for my trip there, paid for my traveling expenses, hotel, and the conference fee, and then I got some more money from Sovelta. So if you think about it, you do have to remember your sponsors. It's funny coming from me, forgetting Weem from the slides, but you do have to remember your sponsors. So what I learned from a Norwegian colleague of mine, Olav told me that his company had told him that the best thing that ever happened was a small mention in the slide itself. Although they were, I checked it, we had no rules of not putting it there, but it was not recommended to put it there, but I did put it there. And because we had lots of viewers for the video, so that's always good marketing. And that's a very good way to thank your sponsors as well. Can anyone see the hidden joke in this? You know it already. That's also one thing. I'm self-employed, and Microsoft or anyone has no way of getting the actual title that I use. And as I know that Mark Rusinovich is only a technical fellow in Microsoft, that's the only reason why I'm a senior technical fellow in my company. No, it was already in the other ones, but I bolded it for Australia. That's the only change I did. I actually got in 2 weeks I had about 21,000 views for the video, so that should prove at least to Sovelta that it was quite good of a marketing. So don't be shy. If your sponsor asks if the money was well spent, it's good that you have proof. The actual session. If you only get one chance, as I thought I would, I'd suggest that if you're going to get into TechEd and stuff like that, just try to make it the best session you've ever done. A good session and you'll get back, and a bad and you won't, so it's kind of easy. One note, though, is that Microsoft is a company that's trying to make profit and have small expenses. So one good thing, of course, is that if you know that they have a subject and you've got plenty of sessions on that subject, it might be easier to get in because they have really limited amount of money for people traveling outside of US, for example. Last year, TechEd, I was fighting for 5% of the sessions because 95% they wanted to be local, and 75% of the people or the speakers were supposed to be their own. So you're fighting for a really small percentage of the whole thing. Planning, what I do, choose the topic, and now we know that you have to make it sexy, so just put the black belt or ninja in it and you'll get in. Build up a transcript, and the weirdest thing is that I always start with the jokes. Like if I have to train anyone on speaking or making their sessions better, I tell them that you should be following your technical stuff and you should be the best in line and you should follow all the blogs and stuff like that. But about what I tell everyone is that you should watch a lot more TV and mainly stand-up comedians, because you actually need it. That's especially for TechEd US. That's the only thing that really. This is the part where I start thinking that. Yeah, it's not a joke. It did it to me once before. Bad connection. Ooh. Back online. I'm gonna keep it here. I won't be able. Let's try. So you do need the stand-up part as well. Make it local and tell war stories. This is actually, even I think this is funny, because I was in Australia, and this was done only for Australia. I was 2 days lying in my bed in the hotel room before my session, because I've never basically been as sick as I was when I had the TechEd winter session. I had a 40 degrees fever, and I woke up. I had my alarm clock waking me up every 3 hours when I could take more medicine by the instructions on the box. So I woke up for 2 days every single 3 hours, day and night, and took all the medicine but huge amounts of it. So our snakes are like really small and not that scary, so you wouldn't put the actual picture of a Finnish snake. You would have this, and you would talk about the anti-venom for snake poison, although it looks like this. It's just like not that. It's you can buy it from any pharmacy, and it's not a cool war story if you tell it, but you just have to have a little bit coloring on the story to get it better. So that's what I started with. 12 hours before I had no voice, but because of the anti-venom, although a small white tablet, but still it sounds better if it's anti-venom. So I got my voice back. Use your weaknesses to your benefit. Hidden slide, this is only for you. You wouldn't see this in the actual presentation. The hidden slide is here because actually the build-up towards the first joke starts from here. So you can figure out when you hear the joke as how far away I start to build up the story just for a single joke. So you've seen this before, many of you. I use my weaknesses as a benefit. My dad used to work in the States during the 80s, and I've been basically speaking English for all my life, but I'm still not a native. English is not my native language. So Finland, as you know, it's a really weird language. So if you have any kind of trademark that you can use to make people remember you, you have to do it. I got Stephen Rose, who was running Springboard, the whole website and all that stuff. He's wearing a järjestelmän valvoja t-shirt, which is like the same thing in Finnish. So as troubleshooting is done mainly with an administrator account, so järjestelmän valvoja is the same thing in Finnish. It sounds ridiculous and weird. So if you have any weaknesses, you can always say them aloud to get rid of the possible fears that you have. I do still, especially if I'm in US, I'm thinking about like, would I understand their questions? Would they understand my language? That's basically the same thing, and I always have some screenshots also. So there's a GP editor, MSc in Finnish, is ryhmäkäytäntö object editor, which is it's really easy to write on the command prompt. So, talking about Finnish, Finnish is also the language that J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote the Lord of the Rings, and wrote the whole language of the elves. You know that he did the whole grammar and stuff like that. And he used Finnish as the base for the language of the elves. Because Finnish was the hardest to understand language that he could find anywhere in the world. So he did that. If you think about Lord of the Rings, and now you're thinking about going tonight to the party we're having at Sovelto, tomorrow morning what you don't want to have is a Gollum hangover. You know what a Gollum hangover is? That's when you wake up naked behind the rock and you've lost the ring. So, going back a bit, you have to have slides to tell about the language in Finland to get into the story of the language of the elves in the Lord of the Rings, to actually find a place to tell the joke of Gollum. That was the joke I decided a lot earlier than I decided anything before this. So, the actual agenda on the session itself had lots to do with troubleshooting. So I tried to teach about how to debug error messages and applications and services and user accounts and stuff like that, unbootable machines. If you think about Windows, I always teach people about Windows troubleshooting, and I teach them that the only logic in Windows is that there's no logic. These are stuff from the Windows OS. So, you know that the system partition is the one that has all the boot files, and the boot partition is the one that has all the system files. Yeah. Every 64-bit code in Windows is in System 32, and all the 32-bit code is in Sysbob 64. Actually, there's a service called the browser, but actually, if you try to do the parameters, as they say on some Microsoft Knowledge Base articles, you are getting it wrong, because Cutler, who wrote the kernel, just misspelled it, and it's actually Bowser. He's missing an R. There's a service for the networking. Nowadays you can find words like auxiliary functioning driver or something like that, as AFD is actually named after an incident where a guy who was responsible for the networking stack couldn't get a driver ready, and Cutler was yelling at them like, why can't you get the driver working? And they said, it's working perfectly, but we just don't have a name for it. So Cutler yelled at them and said that it's just another freaking driver. It's not freaking, it's something I can't say loud, but that's because it's AFD. So he named it AFD because it's just another freaking driver. Hives, you know why registry has hives? That's like, it's not the structure of the registry, it's because the guy who was responsible for that part of loading files to the registry itself was totally scared of bees. And Cutler thought that he was circling around his project like trying to stay away from beehives. So that's why he named them hives. So now that you're doing troubleshooting, you cannot do it like you would do it in a proper Finnish operating system, which is built on logic. You will just have to learn everything and every single command one by one, because there is no logic in it. So, you do want to be critical. You know that Microsoft is paying your fees, but still you will win the audience by showing that you are critical. You are not a Microsoft. Someone wrote on the evals that nice to hear someone talk in TechEd who hasn't drank too much of Microsoft juice. So that's what I'm aiming for. Then we're talking about tools. Let's go forward. Error descriptions. To be able to troubleshoot, you need good error descriptions, especially in Windows 8. These are just like the topics on the actual slides. Real world examples. Great. If your users are telling you that they have errors, they will report them to you, and basically you are fighting between these two best and worst case examples, kind of. The other one is the basic my computer just broke. That's all. And once in a while we have really nice users who type in the whole blue screen. This is an actual picture of a blue screen that a user gave me. So I had this error message. I honestly didn't know what to say. I was like laughing or crying, or I was thinking about saying like, you misspelled that one. Yeah.
Just type it in the kernel debugger.
Yeah, but that's crazy. So then we had some errors. Hidden note, the build-up towards choke number 2 actually starts here. So we had a huge build-up for the first one, but now we're starting to build up for the next second one. And I would have shown some error descriptions, but I don't have the time, and it's not about this session anyway, so we're going forward. See next slide for choke preparations. Okay, so if myself I'm afraid that something might happen, I usually say it loud. And what I usually do is I tell them, before I start doing demos, I tell them that now that I'm doing a demo, and if you think it's failing, it's usually not failing. The only place when you know that Sami is failing a demo is when you see his ears turning red. It's something there's no way of me controlling it. My ears turn totally red if a demo doesn't work. I can't do anything about it. My students know it because they see it sometimes and they're like... So, why do I do it? Because I'm so afraid of my ears turning red. That's basically the only reason why I tell the story always aloud. Like, if something would really go bad, my ears would turn red. So they don't turn red instantly, at least. So then I do some demos. Okay, we did some logon diagnostics. We talked about services and registry edits and stuff like that. I'm not going to show you the actual demos. But what you are aiming for example, I'm actually going to show you a demo. And now this won't get recorded, but you can still hear me. So what I'm actually going to do is I'll show you a neat registry trick. I don't know how many of you know this, but Windows Registry actually has a key built in for their own debuggers, and the guys working at Microsoft support. It's HD local machine software, Microsoft. I have to say this aloud still, but is Mikko here? Mikko, you are the first person ever I've seen using regedit favorites. That's like, that's extremely cool.
I'm just not lazy enough then.
Yeah, I know, but I was like, wow, I didn't even know they had favorites.
You can be very lazy.
Yeah. So Microsoft, let's see, Windows NT. Many people think that if you start a program and the program starts automatically, that it's because it's in the path, for example, path variable. But you actually, the strongest one is actually here, image file execution options. You can type in any software executable that you want. So let's try, for example, notepad.exe, and say that for notepad.exe you will actually use a debugger, and as a debugger we will use calculator.exe. So however the user from now on tries to use notepad, he will always get the calculator. So you know it would be really nice for the end user to have to go to Windows System 32 Notepad.exe and actually right-click the Notepad.exe and press open. Oh no, it won't work. Why would I show it? I show it because I'll use it for debugging. How I'll use it for debugging is actually replacing, usually what I'll replace is sethg.exe. It's already there. Yeah, it is. Sorry. We can do something else.
Let me show you here.
No worries yet. Let's do another one. Let's try utilman.exe. That's good enough. Okay, that's good. Utilman.exe will be replaced with a debugger of cmd.exe. So now that we are doing pre-logon diagnostics and we are on a computer that we cannot log on and we need to process monitor, for example, the events that are happening during logon, we can click this nice icon here down on the left to get a command prompt, which is actually running system rights. So we get full access to the computer before anyone has logged on. Wow. So it is actually really good. Sorry. It's actually a really good trick. I mean, I do use it all the time for troubleshooting because that's the easiest way for me to get on the computer without anyone logging on. But even more, I will have to admit that I'm doing it because with this people can go home and tell their friends like, you have no idea what I can do with Windows. Yeah, come on, you think you know stuff? Check this out.
I've learned that from Sami, and now I use it to explain why you should have physical security and read only domain controls. And I just say, look, you can hack it in 3 minutes. And they're all like, wow. Thank you, Sami.
Thank you. So, background services. Windows background services use 3 different accounts. They're called system, local service, and network service. And I always tell people that if you're debugging services, when you start referring to services like people, you start to get the point. So there's Mr. Network Service, Mr. Local Service, and the only one that's referred to as Mrs. is Mrs. System, because she's the only one that actually has all the power. So you always use stereotypes. That usually works in every culture. Then we had some demos on security principles and services. So if you think about a Windows service, since Windows Vista, things have changed, and now services used to be running only under the system account or local service and network service. Nowadays, every service actually has a SID. And you can see it with SC show SID. For example, the spooler. It actually has a SID, means that you can give it rights or deny it rights. You have to be really careful because spooler also has a SID. And everyone knows the coolest service in Windows 8.1 only, which is the super secret NSA Prism service. It's actually there. So probably we're going to guess that it's not there. And this one is not working anymore. So what you do with this is that you read the news and make it current. So everyone is talking about NSA and Prism, so it always works very well. Make it current, read the news. Processes and threads using system account was the next one that we did. I'm not going to show you the demo itself, but it basically starts with a sentence saying that if you are doing troubleshooting and you're looking at Task Manager, or you think that Explorer.exe in Vista sometimes crashed, you're wrong. The thing is that in Vista, Explorer.exe basically never crashed or never hung up, or never was hanging. Because the thing is that people don't know that in Windows, processes actually cannot do anything. Processes are like containers for threads, and only threads can execute code, and only threads can actually get stuck. So that's usually something that most of the crowd has no idea. And I do it only because you just like want to shake the foundations and like try to figure out something that you know that the audience doesn't know, and it basically demolitions all the basics that they thought that their knowledge was built on.
The question is, how do you get to know it yourself?
Super secret NSA Prism service. Okay, this is only a part of how to get to Safemode in Windows 8, in Windows 8.1. But if we think about it, and you think about the session topic, what's the funny part here? The weirdest thing is that I was in every TechEd talking about Windows 8 troubleshooting. This was, I think, slide number 47, and that's actually the first slide that mentions the title. That's the first slide that has anything to do with Windows 8. I've been talking for 70 minutes now without actually talking at the topic that they came to hear. So that's, again, the part that I'm not that proud of, of course. Well, it did the trick anyway. What's new? Okay. After that, I had some examples on Safemode. You actually know that you have these, as Mikko said, I won't mention the company by name, but the uninstallation password was called Symantec. That's a very nice way of putting it in your demo. I always talk about yellow boxes, but anyway, there's there's actually, I don't know if you've heard, there's like the worst malware ever. That's I think it's called Symantec antivirus. It's it infects your computer, and there's no way of getting it out of the computer. You read like tens and tens of user manuals to try to get rid of it, and use registry hacks and delete files and try to get Symantec antivirus out of the computer. And I actually had to learn a way to teach my students an easy way to get Symantec antivirus out of the computer. And if you go to Safemode, the only thing is that in Safemode MSI installer service is not running, and you are not able to start it, so you are not able to remove any software. So the weirdest thing is that Microsoft says that if you install software and your computer is not working, please go into Safemode and remove the software. On the next page is said that if you are a software developer, you should be installing with MSI packages. So anything done by their instructions cannot be uninstalled in Safemode. So it's kind of weird. But you can tweak the Safemode. So if you add the register key, you can get the MSI installer service working, and you can actually uninstall Symantec antivirus in Safemode. So they can actually use it. They can take it home and use it for many software, because it's a really common thing, and it makes your life a lot easier. Windows 8 BSOD. So I was talking about memory dumps. And on my demo machine, I could show you the demo actually, but I'm not going to show you, I'm just going to walk you through. If you actually want to be able to do proper troubleshooting, you will have to know how crash dumps work. And you also have a KP article which tells you how to produce a memory dump, because you have to be able to produce a blue screen. Not my fault, it's very good now, especially that it has the crash button. You don't have to do any weird stuff, just press crash.
Mark's still number one.
Yeah, I know, Mark, yeah. Yeah, that's why. The thing is that even with the risk of going a few minutes over, I'm going to tell you, you know, who doesn't know what Zoom It is? Few. Sysinternal's tool for every single instructor. Zoomit.exe. I was present when Mark Rusinovich developed Zoomit. We were in Amsterdam, and there were 40 people in the room. Mark does this quite well. There were 40 people in the room paying 2,500 euros for the course. So that was in 2005, I think. And he was drawing on the PowerPoint with a software from InFocus. The same thing, drawing and zooming and stuff like that. And then suddenly a student in the room raises his hand. Excuse me, Mark, I think that you don't have rights to use the software. And 39 people turn at the guy like, what? And Mark is like, what do you mean? Well, you actually can only use it if you are projecting with an InFocus project. Mark didn't say almost anything, he just said that, I'm extremely sorry and I'll get back to you tomorrow. He came back the next day, he showed us an email from InFocus which said, the guy is basically right, you are not allowed to use it without our projectors. By the way, Mark, you rock, you're the god. And then Mark started up Zoom it for the first time in front of an audience. Started up Zoom it and said, I just built this last night in my hotel room. Any objections? So that's why Mark is still number one. But he's only a technical fellow, so I'm fine with it. Well, actually, okay, so I could show you this thing, but we're running out of time, so the thing is that basically what you could do is you could, if I just try to press like Control key and then press Control scroll. That's demo.
Okay, that's blue screen.
Yeah, that's the wrong computer. You can see my ears. So no worries. There's actually no worries there, but it always works well when they think that you crashed and you're totally in deep shit, and then they see that, oh, you're okay. So, I might be. I haven't seen it, so that's fine for me. So remember the evals and remember the Twitter. That goes for this session as well, although this is from the original session, but you always need to remember your crowd to take the evals. We would like to thank our sponsors, and now as quickly as you can I would suggest and we. So yeah, okay, but I'll see you in the lobby. Thanks everyone.